welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi, and joining me now to decode the fine print of Budget 2024-25 is Neelkanth Mishra, Chief Economist at Axis Bank and Head of Global Research at Axis Capital. Neelkanth, morning. Welcome to the show. I'm going to try and make this simple for our viewers with your expertise and throw short questions at you, and let's see how it goes. The first, what does this budget do for India's growth?
I think it has a negative impact in the near term, as it is intended to, because when you do fiscal consolidation, you are creating headwinds for growth. But this is very wise and carefully done, because when the economy is ready to stand on its own feet, then the government should be withdrawing support that it is. So in the near term, this is a withdrawal of support that the government had for the overall economy. In the medium term, I think this is very positive for growth, because what this does is signal to the markets and the economy that the government prioritizes macroeconomic stability. It improves visibility of interest rates, of inflation, of in aggregate, cost of capital, and therefore encourages companies to go ahead and invest. So I think it does a lot. Plus, because this was the first budget of the new government, it also lays out the priorities for the government over the next 5 years. Some of those we will start getting the details on in the next 6 months itself. So the next budget is due on the 1st of February 2025. We will start to see what the government means by simplification of income taxes, simplification of customs duties, what the government means by the brownfield development of existing cities, and a lot of such other interesting initiatives.
From your reading so far, what are the new priorities that the government has indicated?
So it's largely status quo. And frankly, when we think about the budget itself, so there are two parts to it, as you know. There is the budget arithmetic, and then there is the budget speech, which actually is slightly more forward-looking. So the budget arithmetic is intended to be quite boring, meaning that it's accounting, it's about how do you get taxes, how do you spend it, so and how much fiscal deficit you have. The new message in the budget arithmetic, the fiscal maths, was that the government intends to rationalize, streamline taxation, simplify taxation. So, which is why you saw capital gains taxes across asset classes seeing some changes. We also saw the government acknowledging that there is a slack in the labor market, and therefore to explicitly announce, and it was very prominently placed in the budget speech as well, explicitly announce the employment-linked incentive schemes in order to create more formal sector jobs. Beyond that, most of the new priorities came up in the budget speech. So things like energy security, the finance minister saying explicitly that nuclear power is going to be a very important part of India's energy mix in the next 25 years. Was, I think, a very important statement. I think the prioritization of making India a product nation, the creation of the innovation fund, the focus on infrastructure and urban development. So all of these, while we have seen these announcements in the past, the fact that these will be priorities for the government in the next 5 years was important.
Neelkanth, jobs seem to be the new focus, but a day before the budget, when I was looking at all the job-related measures that had been announced in the previous 10 years, there were several measures that have been announced, including the Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana, which was a PF subvention-linked scheme. What is different this time around, and is this going to yield immediate results, or as some people are pointing out, it will take time for these measures to have a real impact on the ground as far as new job creation is concerned?
Yeah, so this, I think, will accelerate the formalization of jobs more than create new jobs. Remember that the first year allocation for these schemes is about 10,000 crores, about 100 billion rupees now, which is a lot of money. But in the context of 325 trillion rupee economy, it is 0.03% of GDP. So it is not something that is very substantial in terms of the size of the fiscal intervention. But it is an important signal. And remember that the approach that we have seen from this government is that once they identify a problem, they are relentless at the feedback loop. That does this work? If it doesn't work, how can we tweak it? How can we make it larger? If it starts to work, can we amplify it? So I think that calibration we will start to see. But the key message for me was that they are looking at formal job creation a lot more actively than they were till last year. Now, will this necessarily create like tens of millions of jobs? I think that is the objective, but I think it'll take a while for it to really start to show up. I think a much bigger impact on jobs will be as the private sector investment starts to pick up with improved macroeconomic stability, falling cost of capital. Those, I think, are much more important and easing regulations. In fact, the economic survey, to the extent that it becomes like a guiding light for policy making for the government, it explicitly says that it is very, power is very addictive, but letting go of it is for the better of the governing and the governed. And I think it's a very powerful statement. So those are changes that I think can be much more substantial in terms of job creation.
Neelkanth, what does this budget do for supporting the agriculture sector and consequently the rural economy?
See, the first thing, as we have often discussed on your show as well, I think the rural-urban divide these days is not very analytically useful, because with every village now getting connected to roads, getting electricity, the road connectivity is much better. The demand and the mobility of labor and where they consume is actually becoming very fungible. But I think the agri-non-agri divide is still quite stark, and that deserves some attention. So on the agricultural side, I think the allocation in the budget has gone up from about, I think, 1.44 to 1.52 lakh crores, so 1.44 to 1.52 trillion rupees. So that is not very substantial. But, from the vote on account to the full budget, generally, because it's just, 8-9 months left to go. And by the time the ministries get to know the numbers, it'll be like 6-7 months left to go. So that's not, I didn't expect too much to change here. But clearly, I think the priority is in improving infrastructure, improving market access, improving yields, because productivity and agricultural incomes are linked to how much you can grow. But I think on the same plot of land. And I think providing visibility on all of those fronts is important for the agricultural sector to grow. So there were signs that the government is thinking along these lines. As we have seen in the past, I think the challenge is that agriculture is a state subject. The center can only advise and guide and give model documents. The states have to implement. But I think how they deal with that, and fortunately, with the agriculture minister being an ex-chief minister of Madhya Pradesh, and Madhya Pradesh has been the poster child of successful agricultural reforms in India. It has gone from being a Bimaru state to producing more wheat than Punjab, and so on and so forth. And it has led to very widespread boost to agricultural incomes in Madhya Pradesh. So hopefully, with that experience behind him, I think the new agriculture minister can drive through these changes at the state level.
Neelkanth, you must have also seen that as the budget speech was rolling out, various sectors in the markets were responding to the proposals. The one that stood out in the green was the FMCG sector. And taking it from there, what is in it for the budget to support consumption? Because that has also been a consistent macro theme for discussions in the run-up to this exercise.
So what was very clear to me from the budget was that there is no explicit attempt to drive consumption. The reason why I think that consumption stocks started to do better. I mean, some of them were also reporting results, but point being that the in some sectors, like say in cigarettes, there was not. There was no hike in excise duties. The drop in the import duties on gold and silver helped the jewelry manufacturers. So there were specific things that changed in the budget, which of course helped those specific stocks. But otherwise, I think the boost to consumption was more indirect. So if the government creates more jobs, or if the government's policies help create more jobs, that boosts incomes. There is some income tax cuts, about 29,000 crores, because the lower income segments are going to be bigger beneficiaries as the tax slabs have been bumped up. So from 5,000 to 17,500 rupees per taxpayer. The larger number of income taxpayers are at the lower middle income level. So the assumption is that some of this will flow through. But frankly, in the context of a 325 trillion rupee economy, a 0.1% change is not something that can meaningfully impact consumption in some of these sectors. I think the overall sector doing well was largely due to the sector-specific factors that affected some of those.
So I hope to see you again on this subject. Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi, and joining us now is a very special guest, Mr. Amitabh Kant, India's Sherpa to the G20, a man with considerable policy-making experience of over 4 decades and counting. Welcome to this session of Decoding Budget 2024-25, Mr. Kant. There's a host of questions that I have for you, but I want to begin with that one question that's being asked quite a bit. Why did the budget not choose to extend the performance-linked incentive scheme for boosting manufacturing and jobs to various other sectors?
Well, I think, Siddharth, to my mind, this is one of the most sensible things the finance minister has done, is to not spread PLI too thin. We've extended it to 14 sectors. We should see that these sectors deliver. And other than electronics manufacturing, 13 other sectors must deliver in a big way. Secondly, PLI is not the solution for all the challenges of manufacturing. You know, the challenge is to make India very, very efficient as a manufacturing destination by improving on its land, logistics, labor, many other issues, by scrapping rules, regulation, procedures. PLI was an interim measure for a period of 5 years to create global champions. It's only meant for companies which are able to keep increasing their size of production and the scale of production year after year for 5 years. This is not a solution for all sectors, and I'm really glad that Finance Minister has not expanded it to other sectors.
Mr. Kant, does it mean that at some point of time in the future, the PLI will be withdrawn after the sectors in question have sort of stood on their own feet from a manufacturing point of view?
Yeah, the PLI was only meant for a period of 5 years for these 14 sectors. Within a period of 5 years, these sectors must deliver, and the companies who've benefited from PLI must achieve the targets and must expand and make India a global champion in manufacturing in these 14 sectors. That was the objective. The objective was not to perpetuate PLI. The objective was that India can't grow manufacturing on the back of constant subsidization. The objective is to make India the most efficient country in the world as far as manufacturing is concerned. And that's why the focus on ease of doing business, that's why the focus on improving logistics through Gati Shakti and many other things.
Mr. Kant, before I move on to other matters, just one quick follow-up. Given that there was a COVID-related disruption and we have seen certain sectors talk about it, has the PLI delivered from a job creation point of view?
Well, the objective of PLI was to enhance manufacturing production, create global champions. The PLI, if you have too many objectives, then you fail. And India, in its policy design, policy structure, constantly makes this mistake of having too many objectives. We should have one clear objective, and the objective was to enhance manufacturing. My view is that when India creates very big champions of manufacturing, as a consequence of that, you will have tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 producers. There will be backward forward linkages between MSMEs and between medium size industries with the large companies, and job creation will automatically happen over a period of time. So as PLI succeeds over a period of time, you will see many more MSMEs happening. You know, the electronic sector, where it has succeeded in a big way, you've seen a lot of manufacturing coming up, and I think the same thing will happen to many other sectors as they succeed in PLI.
One of the key tenets and features of this budget is a renewed focus on job creation. Over 10 years of two Modi governments, there have been specific incentives, but yesterday an employment-linked scheme has also been brought to the forefront. Around 10,000 crore has been allocated for it. Mr. Kant, what do you see it achieving, and is this money going to be enough, and is it just a starting allocation?
No, it's a very good initiative to say that we are going to support industries who are going to create jobs by 3,000 rupees for a period of 2 years, or we are going to provide support also to the people who get first-time job for a 1 month of salary, or to say that new jobs being created in manufacturing, we will assist both the employer and employee in terms of reduction of EPFO. These are very good incentives. But if you read it around with many other good announcements yesterday, one of which was a new centrally sponsored scheme for skilling, and also a focus on women's skilling, all of them are very important. So in totality, it's a budget which focuses on employment. But my view on employment is that, India will create jobs when it grows at high rates for a long period of time. And jobs have to be created by the private sector of India. Most of the jobs will come out of the private sector. And secondly, if you look at the budget in totality, employment will come from tourism, on which there is a major thrust. Employment will come from MSMEs, on which there is a major thrust. Employment will come from infrastructure creation, on which there is a major thrust. And the second other challenge is that, as you create infrastructure, that means that your real estate industry will grow, construction will grow, your travel tourism will grow, which will have a multiplier impact. And therefore, you need to move people away from agriculture. India's 46% of our employment is in agriculture, which is very, very high. Even a country like China, the total dependency of employment on agriculture is just 20%. So you need to create good quality jobs, better paying jobs out of agriculture into manufacturing, into urbanization, into real estate, into services sector. That is really the key. And that should happen from the private sector of India.
Mr. Kant, in your assessment, has enough been said and done for agriculture in this budget? There is, of course, a new focus in terms of agriculture R&D. Allocations have been increased marginally because just a few months of this fiscal are left. Has enough been done, sir?
Well, quite a bit has been done in terms of focusing on vegetables, focusing on new varieties for horticulture. There's a lot has been done, and the challenge for Indian agriculture also is that we need to move away from paddy and wheat into new crops. We need to get into vegetables, we need to get into dairy, we need to get into horticulture. Those are areas where farmers will get a larger income. So I think the focus of the budget is in doing greater extent of value addition in agriculture, and you need to provide greater amount of cold storages, etc. So budget has done quite a bit on that.
Mr. Kant, how do you read the consumption situation, and do you think the budget proposals address this, particularly from a rural Bharat perspective?
See, consumption is an outcome of many things, and consumption is an outcome of greater job creation. Consumption is an outcome of infrastructure creation in rural areas. So if the focus of the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana, if you look at it, is totally on Gramin roads this time. You know, the entire focus is on Gramin roads, not on urban roads. So where will that money go to? It will go to rural areas. If you look at this focus on vegetable and horticulture, where will that money go to? It will go to rural areas. The job creation or the tax benefit of 17,500 rupees, where will it go to? It will go to all rural areas, the middle class, all this, and that should lead to the growth of consumption in the months to come, to my mind. Consumption is not a function of giving doles. Consumption is a function of good infrastructure creation. Consumption is a function of greater production and productivity in rural areas.
Mr. Kant, you have yourself contributed to the revival of the real estate sector. Given the fact that capital gains taxation also involves changes to indexation and the rate of taxation for housing, what could be the policy objective behind this? Is it the larger rationalization of capital gains, or is the government seeking to curb a certain kind of excessive speculation or price build-ups?
No, the government's policy is to make things easy, simple, have predictability, consistency, and to ensure that every asset class has the same level of taxation. So to my mind, removing indexation and reducing the tax from 20% to 12.5%, actually, if you look at the calculations, and the Revenue Secretary explained it in one of his meetings at great length, is actually will benefit 90% of those who bought properties. Actually the indexation will be largely beneficial to people who own properties. He explained it at great length. So I think in a very large number of cases it will be benefit, but the end objective is to bring all asset class together at about 12.5%.
Mr. Kant, there's so many more questions, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time with us today to help us understand some of the finer details of Budget 2024. With that, it's a wrap on this conversation with Mr. Amitabh Kant. Viewers, we'll be back with more. Until then, goodbye.